In this video, we're going to look at the most epic deaths in mythology, starting with number 1.
Achilles, the invincible warrior's fatal weakness.
It's sometime around 1200 BC, and a woman named Thetis is standing at the edge of the river Styx, which, if you're unfamiliar, is basically the ancient Greek version of the border between the living world and the land of the dead. The water is black, the air smells like existential dread, and Thetis is doing something that would make any normal person's skin crawl. She's dangling her newborn baby into it. See, Thetis isn't crazy. She's a sea nymph, which means she's basically immortal. But her son Achilles is half human, and the human half of him can absolutely die. And that is not something she is willing to accept. The river Styx is said to grant invulnerability to anyone who touches its waters. So Thetis does what any reasonable immortal mother would do, and dips her infant son into a cursed underworld river like he's a tea bag. Every inch of the baby is submerged and protected. Every inch. Except for the one spot on his heel where she's gripping him. She doesn't think about it. A tiny oversight, a half second of carelessness. That heel is going to end him.
But before we get to that, let's talk about what Achilles actually was, because calling him a great warrior is like calling a nuclear warhead a firework. The man was operating on a completely different level from every other human being alive. He was faster than anyone on the battlefield, hit harder than anyone on the battlefield, and had an almost supernatural ability to be exactly where the most violence was happening at any given moment. He was the kind of fighter that made entire armies question their life choices just by showing up. The Greeks are locked in a brutal siege against the city of Troy, and it's not going great. Troy has walls. Enormous, impressive, expertly built walls. The kind of walls that make you stand outside them for 10 years, wondering if maybe you should have just let Helen stay. But Achilles doesn't care about the walls. Achilles cares about the fighting, and every time he's on the field, the Trojans are getting absolutely dismantled. Then he has a falling out with Agamemnon, the Greek commander, over a woman. The details are messy, and everyone involved handled it badly, but the short version is that Agamemnon disrespects Achilles publicly, and Achilles responds by taking his soldiers and going home. He's not leaving the war, he's just refusing to fight. He sits in his tent, sulking. The greatest warrior in the world is sitting in a tent on the beach, doing absolutely nothing while his teammates get slaughtered outside. This goes about as well as you'd expect. Without Achilles, the Greeks start hemorrhaging battles like a man who just got stabbed. The Trojans, led by the brilliant and genuinely terrifying Hector, push them all the way back to the beach. Ships are being burned. Men are dying by the hundreds. The Greeks are in full panic mode. Achilles, his best friend Patroclus, who has been watching all of this with increasing horror, comes up with a plan. If Achilles won't fight, he'll dress up in Achilles' armor, go out on the battlefield, and at least scare the Trojans into retreating. Everyone knows what Achilles' armor looks like, and nobody wants to find out if the man inside it is in a bad mood. Achilles agrees to this plan, which, in hindsight, is one of the worst decisions in the history of warfare. Patroclus charges onto the battlefield in Achilles' armor, and it works brilliantly. The Trojans fall back immediately. They see those greaves and that helmet, and they are gone. Patroclus, riding the high of this, decides the plan worked so well that maybe he should push further into Trojan territory. He shouldn't have done that. Hector finds him, and Hector, who is the actual best warrior on the Trojan side, figures out pretty quickly that the guy in the armor is moving wrong, fighting wrong, being wrong. This isn't Achilles. Hector kills Patroclus, strips the armor off him, and stands over the body. When word reaches Achilles that his best friend is dead, something inside him breaks completely open. The sulking is over. What happens next is less a military campaign and more a force of nature wearing a man's body. Achilles gets new armor forged by Hephaestus, the god of the forge, who makes him a breastplate so magnificent it literally glows. And then Achilles walks back onto the battlefield, radiating the energy of a man who has decided that the only acceptable outcome today is maximum destruction. He tears through the Trojan army like it isn't there. Soldiers aren't fighting him, they're just encountering encountering him briefly before dying. He kills so many men that the river Xanthus, which runs along the battlefield, literally complains to him that there are too many corpses clogging it up. The river talks to him about the bodies, and Achilles tells the river to mind its business and keeps going. He finally catches up with Hector outside the walls of Troy. Hector, to his credit, doesn't run immediately. He does run eventually, 3 full laps around the city walls, but in his defense, Achilles at this point looked like what would happen if rage itself learned to sprint. Eventually, Hector stops. They fight. Achilles wins, and to really drive the point home, he ties Hector's body to his chariot and drags it around the walls of Troy for 12 days. The Greeks should have won the war right there. With Hector gone, the Trojans had no one left who could seriously threaten them. But Achilles is not done dying yet.
Enter Paris. Paris is the Trojan prince who started this whole war by running off with Helen in the first place. He is not a great warrior. He's pretty, charming, famously bad at taking responsibility for things, and about as suited to the front lines of combat as a golden retriever in a hurricane. But Paris has one skill. He's an exceptional archer. More importantly, Paris has help. Apollo, the god of the sun, prophecy, and general divine meddling, has had it with Achilles. The man has been killing Trojans for years, and Apollo has been on Troy's side this whole time. So when Paris draws back his bow and aims at the battlefield, Apollo leans in and makes a very small adjustment to the trajectory. The arrow flies across the entire battlefield, past hundreds of warriors, past every single inch of invulnerable, river Styx-blessed, God-forge-armored Achilles. And it hits him in the heel. That heel, the one his mother was holding, the one that never touched the water. The half-second of carelessness from a worried mother standing at the edge of the underworld a lifetime ago. Achilles looks down at the arrow in his heel with the expression of a man doing very rapid and unwelcome math in his head. He dies there on the battlefield, the greatest warrior who ever lived, killed by the worst warrior in the war with a single arrow, because of one tiny spot that his mother forgot to dip. Baldur, the shining son of Odin and Frigg, was the god of light, purity, beauty, and joy. Everyone loved Baldur. He was so bright, in fact, that a brilliant light would follow him wherever he went, making him the most beautiful and beloved being in all the 9 realms. But one night, things take a dark turn. Baldur starts having nightmares. Not just, I forgot my homework kind of nightmares, but terrifying, prophetic visions of his own death. These visions are so vivid and so consistent that he can't ignore them. He's racked with anxiety, and soon, all of Asgard knows that death is coming for their favorite god. So Frigg embarked on a mission that would have been impossible for anyone else. She traveled across all 9 realms of Norse cosmology, Midgard, Jotunheim, Alfheim, everywhere. And she extracted a solemn, magical promise from literally everything that existed. She got a vow from the fire, the water, the iron and every single metal, the stones, the trees and all wood, the diseases, the poisons, the animals. Every blade, every rock, every sickness swore an oath that it would never, ever harm Baldur. When she was finished, Baldur was officially invulnerable. He was the ultimate shield bearer, the one guy you couldn't scratch. The gods were so pumped about this that they made a new game out of it. They'd gather in the hall and take turns throwing axes, spears, rocks and clubs at Baldur. The weapons would just bounce off, and everyone would laugh and celebrate his charmed life. It was a great time. But guess who wasn't laughing? Loki, the god of mischief and cosmic betrayal. Loki hated Baldur's perfection, hated how everyone loved him, and absolutely hated Frigg for showing off her successful magical quest. So, Loki decided to be the ultimate party pooper. He disguised himself as an old woman, because, of course he did, and went to visit Frigg. He complimented her on her incredible feat, securing the promises of every single thing in creation. Then, he leans in and asks, "That's so impressive, my dear, but surely you didn't ask everything. You must have missed something small." Frigg, feeling proud and secure, admits her mistake. She casually says that there was one single plant that she didn't bother asking for a vow, the mistletoe.
She reasoned it was too small and too harmless to ever hurt her son. Loki's face, beneath the old woman disguise, must have been a terrifying grin. Jackpot. Loki immediately ran off, grabbed a stalk of mistletoe, that small, insignificant plant, and shaped it into a tiny, sharp dart or spear. He then returned to the gods' gathering, where they were still enjoying their Balder bouncing game. Standing near the edge of the crowd was Hodder, Balder's twin brother. Now, Hodder was blind, and because he couldn't see to aim, he wasn't participating in the game. Loki approached Hodder, feigning sympathy. "Why aren't you joining the fun? Don't you want to honor your brother?" Hodder replies that he can't see where Balder is, and anyway, he has no weapon to throw.
Loki, playing the helpful friend, hands him the mistletoe dart. "I'll tell you exactly where to aim, and I'll even help you throw it. Go on, give your brother a send-off." Hodder, with Loki guiding his hand, throws the tiny, seemingly harmless dart. The moment the mistletoe pierced Baldur's body, it ignored all the oaths sworn by every other thing in existence. The spell broke. The invincible god, the golden boy of Asgard, fell instantly dead. The celebration turned into absolute silence, then into absolute hysterical grief.